Billy Preston, the musician, very, very much a one of a kind. We talk about the great pianist of all time, the great organ players. We talk about Ray. We talk about Stevie. We talk about Billy Joel. We talk about Elton John. We talk about all of these greats, Alicia Keys nowadays. But Billy Preston belongs in that class with those folks too, man. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to day number 15. We've reached the halfway point, wow, of the Black Music Month 30 series here on the Groove Line with your host, Chris Stevens. Hopefully you all are doing well out there. It's Pride Month as well as Black Music Month, and I would be remiss if I didn't spend some time talking about the great LGBTQ musicians and singers and songwriters and producers in the Black community that have helped make Black music great over the years. And I wanted to start with a dude who his end was so heartbreaking, but the highs for him were just so high. I want to talk about Mr. Billy Preston today. He's going to be the one to lead off our Pride Week acknowledgement and celebration. And it's interesting because it really didn't come out, pardon the pun, not even a pun, until after he had passed in 2006 that he was gay. But we'll get more into that in a minute. But yeah, Billy Preston was born September 6, 1946 in Houston, Texas, moved to Los Angeles with his mother as a young kid. Became a child prodigy on organ and piano and all of that stuff. Got tutored by Ray Charles, worked with Little Richard, worked with Sam Cooke. Like, I wish Billy had lived long enough to be on the podcast circuit because, man, the stories he could have told about working with those guys. But the biggest break he got, of course, was with the Beatles. And he was over in Europe when the Beatles were still starting to become the Beatles, when he was touring with Little Richard. And that's how he got close with George Harrison, Ringo Starr, and all those guys. So after a few albums, the Beatles invited him to record with them in the mid and late 60s, and he's on Get Back. He's credited it's the Beatles with Billy Preston. And mind you, the Beatles were through the roof at this point. I mean, the Beatles, when you mention the 1960s, the Beatles invariably comes up, not just from a musical standpoint, from a culture standpoint, because they were the lead off home run for the British invasion, pretty much. And this black dude born in Texas, raised in LA, he's their secret sauce. I mean, Billy was called the fifth Beatle. They loved him so much that George Harrison started a record label just to have Billy Preston on it. It was Apple Records, and that's the way. And that's where It's the Way God Planned It came to be. But Herb Alpert, ever the musical genius, threw some money at Billy and got him over to what was brand new thing at the time called A&M Records. Of course, A&M would go on to have Janet Jackson and Atlantic Starr and a few other great acts at that point in time. But so Billy's first album for A&M was I Wrote a Simple Song, but the real tour de force on that one was Out of Space, which was one of the first documented uses of the clavinet outside of Stevie Wonder in popular music. I mean, we talk about Stevie being a technical wizard, but Billy Preston was right up there with him, with the different organs and clavinets and things that he could play. And Out of Space is just one of those fun, funky early 70s instrumentals that sort of has a jazz fusion bent, but also has a lot of rock influences tied in as well. And then, of course, he goes into it's interesting. I discovered this song at first when I was 16 years old, because this was 1997. We didn't have HBO at my house at the time, but my sister did. And I heard that the ABA, the American Basketball Association, was having a documentary on HBO. It was called Long Shots. And so my sister let me record it at her house. And the first things you hear is this piano. Boom, 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 boom. Da, 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 da. I got a song that ain't got no melody. I'm gonna sing it to my friend. I was 16 years old, and that song just stuck in my head forever. And then when I was old enough to get on the internet and discover who it was Billy Preston, Will It Go Round in Circles? So that became a favorite song of mine as a teenager. And, that song was good about 25 years old at that particular point in time. But that became one of his first huge pop successes. And then, of course, there is the song that is my Billy Preston favorite. And this was written with his co-writer, Bruce Fisher, who was still writing stuff like fresh out of high school at the time. And I remember Bruce saying on the Unsung episode they did on Billy Preston, he said this title came from a saying his grandmother used to say, when you know nothing, say nothing. So it turns into nothing from nothing leaves nothing. You gotta have something if you want to be with me. Don't you remember I told you I'm a soldier in the war on poverty. Yes, I am. Like, That is a fun record. When I say, I always mention Inseparable by Natalie Cole is one of the best songs under 3 minutes. Nothing from Nothing is probably the top one. I think the only one might surpass is Get Off Your Ass and Jam by Funkadelic. But outside of that, Nothing from Nothing is one of the best songs under 3 minutes ever recorded. It's so funny because it starts off with this little ragtime thing. Ow! Boom, boom, boom. Blink, 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 boom. And then here comes Billy, running down the game. I can't be your hero because that zero is too cold for me. Not trying to be your highness because that minus, which you ain't got no money, is too low to see. So he's basically saying, you got to have, you got to give in order to get. That's what he's saying. And I mean, it's interesting that a guy would sing that record. I mean, we didn't know Billy's sexuality at that particular point in time. But, a guy singing that, it sounds like kind of cruel. Like, as a man, you're supposed to provide for a woman. But we know that, Billy liked men too. I mean, we'll talk. Okay, so here's how the story is told via Wikipedia. Billy and Sly Stone were cool. Billy played some stuff on There's a Riot Going On, which we still need to review, by the way. Expect that coming up in the near future. And they both were interested in a young lady by the name of Kathy Silva, who was a really young, when you think about it, too young for probably both of those guys, model. So Billy catches Sly in the act with Kathy, and that was the end, apparently, of Billy's involvement romantically with women. Like, and it's so important to note that Billy Preston was sexually abused as a child by people, by a person in the church, by a touring pianist on a tour that he was a part of. Sadly, his mother didn't protect him or believe him. And that's why, we say that I get why parents today don't play about their kids, because kids back then had it awful. Like, people didn't believe in keeping the creepy family relative away from the kids like they do now, as it should be, or the creepy mentor person away from the kids. Back then, it didn't happen. Now, you got parents, side-on parents don't even like putting their kids on the internet no more. I love to see, I don't love to see it, but I get, I completely applaud parents keeping their children off the internet, at least their faces. You can talk about your kids, but, you don't have to always put your faces. I mean, because people are freaking weird. People are absolutely weird. And I think that played a role in Billy's confusion, I guess you would say, about his sexuality. I mean, that had to stink. My guess is, and this is just this submission here, don't hold my feet to the fire as this being fact, but I think maybe that experience with, Sly stealing his girl just told him that, well, maybe Billy said, well, maybe I'm just not meant to be with women. And that would have been his choice. But I think at the time, people forget that being gay was a sin. I mean, people still look at LGBTQ folks as sinful beings in 2026, which is stupid if you ask me. As a straight man, I'm saying that. But as a gay black man in the 70s, oh man, couldn't come out. No way. No way. I mean, we'll talk more about somebody who was brave enough to do it, but we understood why, people probably understood why Billy wasn't so concrete about his sexuality at that particular point in time. But yeah, I'm quite sure him being abused as a kid messed with him, and it messed with his sense of relationships and different things. And it all had to suck for him. I mean, because he continued to write great songs. Like, everybody thinks Joe Cocker's verse, "You are so beautiful." No, Billy did that first. He has the co-writing credits. So he made a lot of money off of that record by another dude singing it. And then, of course, there was, we talked about Sarita Wright on this channel before, God rest her soul as well. They did a song together in 1979 called With You I'm Born Again. And it appeared on the soundtrack of a movie called Fast Break. Now, you OGs who grew up in the 70s, late 70s, you might remember Gabe Kaplan from Welcome Back, Kotter, and Bernard King, the scoring machine for the New York Knicks. God, I hate the New York Knicks. Don't come on here if you're a Knicks fan, man. I don't care that y'all won the championship. Go away. But yeah, Bernard King was with the Nets at the time, and he was co-starring in a movie with Gabe Kaplan about basketball hustlers called Fast Break. And on the soundtrack is this beautiful ballad by Billy Preston and Sarita, come bring me your softness, your kindness. I mean, y'all know I can't sing, but that's probably one of the most beautiful songs ever written. And I mean, I guess Billy, I mean, he was still trying, but by the 80s, things didn't work out for him. He had run into some trouble with the law. He had gotten a couple rough cases against him, did some time in jail, and then he didn't take care of himself. I mean, he was doing drugs heavy, and his body just broke down after a while. He went into a coma for 7 months and died in June of 2006. So I mean, it was a very, very sad end and a very, very sad life outside of the music. But Billy Preston, the musician, very, very much a one of a kind. We talk about the great pianist of all time, the great organ players. We talk about Ray. We talk about Stevie. We talk about Billy Joel. We talk about Elton John. We talk about all of these greats, Alicia Keys nowadays. But Billy Preston belongs in that class with those folks too, man. Like, if you have not heard a lot of Billy's stuff from back in the day, I mean, we ain't even talk about Space Race. Space Race, the sequel to Outer Space. Like, he could make some dope instrumentals, just with his hands for the most part. I mean, the drummers and everybody else had to be in pocket. They still had to follow Billy on them keys. So Billy Preston was a genius, man. A torture genius, unfortunately. And hopefully he has found peace wherever he is. But hopefully, his legacy shouldn't die. I mean, he should be remembered as one of the great musicians of his era or any era. And if he had just, had a safer space to be himself, we probably would know more about, who he preferred and how that could have uplifted somebody else, even in the face of what he dealt with as a kid and then as a young adult. But yes, Billy Preston, one of a kind. God rest his soul. Go listen to his music if you haven't. But if you have a favorite Billy Preston song, or if you have any memories of the songs I mentioned, feel free to drop them in the comments. That's going to do it for day number 15 of the Black Music Month 30 series here on the Groove Line. Greatly appreciate you wonderful people for tuning in as always. Contact information will be in the description below. Don't forget to subscribe, tap that notification bell so you're notified of all the new videos that drop on this channel. And as you know by now, don't be afraid to like and comment on these videos because your boy does talk back in the comments. So thank you guys for riding with me on the Groove Line. We're halfway through the month, almost there. So thank you guys for riding with me. And until the next time we ride, may you find the groove or may the groove find you.